America, the greatest country on earth. But what if we did question it? Now, hold on, Patriots. I know what you're thinking. America's done some pretty great stuff, and you're right. Now, listen, of course, there's no single way to measure greatness, but one good test is how we rank into OECD, which is basically a golf club of 36 countries, predominantly wealthy, Western, and democratic. America is the richest country in this club, but we're also the poorest, with a whopping 18% poverty rate, closer to Mexico than Western Europe.
That system is actually flawed of how they calculate poverty. According to the OECD, they measure poverty by looking at the median income for the countries. And the median income for the different countries vary. For example, the United States median household income is around $61,000. Now, as for the median income for Mexico, it's considerably lower. According to the INEGI, the median income for Mexicans in Mexico is a little over $9,600. And even if we take the most wealthy place in Mexico, the median income only comes around a little over $14,000. So I think it's very misleading what the OECD says when it says how the poverty rate is within countries. Because if they're taking the median, that's not going to work if you're just going to use the median of each country. You're going to have to compare it to a baseline country as to what is poverty. So no, the United States isn't one of the most poverty-driven rich countries. And according to the census, the poverty rate, which how they measure it, is actually only around 12.3%, according to the stat in 2017. And according to another source, the average EU poverty rate is 17%. So please, tell me again how the United States is closer to Mexico in the sense of poverty.
And speaking of kids, turns out at the level of high school science, we're 19th of 36. Reading, 20th. And math, a dismal 30th. Now, I'm not that good at math, not America's fault, but that does not add up well. And neither does this. We spend more on healthcare than any other country in the golf club, especially out of our own private little pockets.
Yes, but we have the best private healthcare in the world. In fact, we have the best healthcare in general in the world. Our private healthcare is superior to that of the public healthcare of other countries. And yes, it is expensive, but that's because of government regulations. If you'd like to read up more on this topic, I'll leave a link to my article on government healthcare.
But we live sicker and shorter lives.
That's because the United States is much fatter.
We're fatter.
Oh, and now you say that.
And globally, we're more likely to see newborns die. We're even behind Bosnia.
Okay, there are a few problems with that. One is how we calculate what is a infant mortality. In some countries, if a baby weighs less than a pound and after 21 weeks of gestation, it's not counted as an infant mortality. However, in the United States, it's counted. And of course, obesity plays into this also because obesity greatly increases infant mortality.
But we have freedom in America, and everyone's jealous or something.
Turns out, a lot of countries have freedoms. And while we boast about them, using our rights is a different story. Only 56% of Americans turn out to vote.
The percentage of voters doesn't matter.
It's getting worse. This year, America slid on global rankings of corruption and freedom and dropped from a functional to a flawed democracy.
The only reason why we were given such a poor rating is because they don't like Donald Trump. The EIU is very left-leaning.
So what, besides our economy and military, are we actually number one in? Turns out, a lot of things. Civilian gun ownership, mass shootings, TV watching, prescription drug abuse, prison population.
Stop trying to associate civil gun ownership with mass shootings, prison population, and drug abuse. The civil gun ownership in the United States is actually a very good thing because when the United States becomes tyrannical, we can actually defend ourselves. However, the same cannot be said about European countries, considering the fact that you guys in most of those countries are not allowed to own guns. And how your countries are going at this point, you might need them.
Oh, and almost number one on environmental damage, edged out by China.
That is blatantly false. According to the EPI, the United States ranks 27th. China ranks 120th. And India ranks 177th. That is far from being dead last for the United States. The US may not be the best, environmentally speaking, but it's far from the worst.
It's gotten to a point where I think there are specific times and places where you can confuse America for a developing country, as elections are tampered with.
They were not tampered with. All that happened was the amount of voting areas was reduced. And if you really want to say it is voter suppression, well, it didn't really have much of an effect because Georgia, for the past few election years, has had a higher voting turnout than California. And in California, it is very easy to vote.
Water can't be drunk from taps.
Yeah, and whose fault is that?
Citizens don't trust uniformed officers.
That's because of Black Lives Matter and the mainstream media and other organizations and groups try to say that cops are killing black people, which is absolute bull. It has nothing to do with police corruption. It has everything to do with media and academia corruption and the just toxic culture that is black culture.
The truth is, how great America is really depends on how rich you are.
No, it doesn't. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please subscribe, like, comment, share, tell me what you thought. Follow me on all my social media, support me on one of my donation sites, and have a happy 4th of July.
We bop and hippity hop, I'm as happy as I can be.